Hello everybody, in this tutorial we're going to be taking a look at the new AI upscaling functionality that got introduced in Corona 12 Update 1. This new functionality is designed to speed up the rendering of your preview imagery, be it still images or draft animations, and it also works with interactive rendering. What this thing does is it renders your images at the quarter of the specified resolution that you've set in your render settings. So in our case here, it renders it in 1280 by 720 instead of 2560 by 1440. And then it AI upscales it to the set resolution. And at the same time, it also AI denoises it. All of this work is done using the optics framework, which does mean you'll need an NVIDIA graphics card to leverage this functionality. Now, the benefits are hopefully clear enough, right? This makes rendering your preview imagery and animation drafts faster because the image is effectively rendered in 1/4 of the wanted resolution, but because of the AI upscaling, it'll better retain the details when it gets scaled back up to the full resolution, as opposed to, if you just rendered the image out at 1/4 of the resolution without AI upscaling. In our case here, as you can see, we went from a 6-minute render, which is the one without AI upscaling and is rendered in full resolution. We went from that to a 2-minute render. And so if you're rendering animation previews especially, right? Well, then this means you've considerably lowered your total render times. And you've helped save the planet a little bit because you've burned less energy to do so. At this point, a little bit of a quick note. If you're trying to compare renders that were AI upscaled and you're trying to compare them to renders that were rendered at full resolution, do not compare them based on the noise limit that each render tried to hit, because when you change the resolution, the noise limit percentage will also get affected. So ideally, when you're comparing images that were AI upscaled and you're comparing them to full resolution images and you're trying to compare the render times there, you want to make sure that both of the images were rendered to a set amount of passes and not to the noise limit. And to expand on that, our recommendation in general would be to try and always use the pass limit for whenever you're working with the AI upscaler, because the amount of detected noise in your image might be very different when you're rendering at different resolutions. And so the pass limit here might be a much better parameter to define when the rendering is done whenever you're using AI upscaling. Now, upon a closer look, you'll definitely see that the AI upscaled image is not quite as crisp or quite as detailed as the full resolution image, right? Plus, you might see some flickering due to the AI denoiser not having temporal consistency. Nonetheless, for rendering out previews, this can be a very useful tool. And so for the reasons that we just mentioned, the AI upscaling functionality is designed for preview imagery and not so much the final renders. Then again, if you're happy with the quality that you're getting, why not use it for final imagery as well? Okay then, but how do you get the AI upscaler to work? Well, it's rather easy. Just jump into your render settings and then under the scene menu and under general settings here, you're going to be able to find this production upscaling mode selector now. Okay. In here, you can select whether you want the AI upscaler to be disabled, which is kind of self-explanatory, right? Or you can set it to only turn itself on whenever it detects that you're rendering out sequences or animations, in other words, right? So pretty nifty. Or you can also just simply set it to be always on, which is the setting you'll want if you're trying to AI upscale your still images. And that really is all that there is to it. The rest is done automatically. And as soon as you start your render, you'll see the AI upscaled result in your VFB. Just remember that along with AI upscaling, you'll also automatically have AI denoising as part of it, because that's just how the AI upscaler works. And that's also why the denoising mode here is now disabled. Okay, cool. But now you can also enable the AI upscaling to work with interactive rendering as well. And that makes for a really fun experience, especially when you're trying to, work on the broader strokes in your scene. So whenever you're setting up your compositions, whenever you're setting up the lighting, and all those sort of parts of the workflow where you don't really require seeing all the nitty-gritty details in your materials, etc., right? Because again, upscaling still comes with a loss of quality. But On the flip side, when you're working on those broader strokes, the AI upscaling can speed up the workflow because, just rendering at a quarter resolution will be much faster, right? And you're going to be able to see how your scene looks like in broader strokes faster, right? Now, to get the AI upscaler working for the interactive rendering, this production upscaling mode selector here is really not going to make a difference for you because this is only relevant for renders that you start by clicking on the render button. Okay. If you want the AI upscaler to work in interactive rendering, what you need to do is you need to go under the performance menu here and then just toggle this upscaling toggle to on, start your interactive rendering, and then you'll have the AI upscaling working in your interactive rendering as well. And this then obviously makes working on the broader strokes in your scene a bit more pleasant because, those passes are going to be coming in much faster because, well, you're rendering at a quarter of the resolution and then you're AI upscaling the image to that full resolution, right? Now, one thing to note when it comes to using the AI upscaler with interactive rendering is that the AI upscaler won't really improve the time Corona needs to load up the scene or load up the changes that you're making in your scene. So the parsing times don't really get affected because they aren't resolution dependent, right? And so that is just something to keep in mind because that part of the interactive rendering experience won't feel snappier. But again, the actual rendering process will be much faster because you're rendering at a quarter of the resolution. In front of you is just a quick example of how the interactive renderer behaves with AI upscaling turned on compared to AI upscaling turned off. In general, I personally find it to be really useful, again, for those broad stroke moves in your scenes. Getting passes in quicker, really helps with the speed at which you can kind of assess how the scene as a whole looks like. Right. And so with that, we are concluding this tutorial. We hope you've learned something new. We hope you like this new functionality. And, we've got more tutorials planned for you. So thank you for tuning in, and we'll see you in the next one.